So finally we are here. And I would like to first welcome everybody on stage. We have His Excellency Consul General of Israel, Mr. Kobi Shoshani on stage here. Thank you very much, sir, for coming. Mr. Sagi, Ministry of Economy and Industry, Israel. Manpreet Singh, President of ICIB. Mr. Vikash Mittersen, President IBG. Thank you very much, everybody on stage. Namaste, Shalom, Boker Tov, good morning. I hope I was correct. Absolutely. Thank you. Oh, yes, my apologies. Mr. Devendra Pai, can I please ask you to come on stage? Today's event is ably supported by various organizations like the Rambhau, Mhalgi, Prabodhini, Mr. Devendra Pai, Masya, MA, Maharashtra Association, IBG, IMA, MSME, GIBF, and the World Sikh Organization. We thank everybody from heart. Without further ado, can we please rise for national anthem playing for both nations, please. शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मागे गाहे तव जय गाथा गण गण मंगल Please remain standing. Thank you, everybody. Please take your seats. A little bit of housekeeping. Can I please request everyone to put your phone on silent or switch it off, preferably? So, next thing, we'll kick it off straight away. My name is Madhu Gatani. I'm the chairman of Real Estate and Infrastructure for the Western Zone for ICIB. We're now going to play a video of ICIB for a few minutes, and then we'll take it ahead. Please. Thank you. As I said, short and sweet. We are now going to begin. I would like to invite Mr. Manpreet, President of ICIB, to say a few words, please.
Thank you, Madhu. First of all, I would like to thank everybody who's here early morning today. I know how traffic in Mumbai is and how half the people are still stuck. So thank you for being here. And I would like to welcome all of you all to this session today. This session is all about friendships today. It's not only about, we see today's theme, that economic summit, but it's not only about economy. It's not only about business. It's about friendships. India and Israel have been connected since a really long time, and I would not say years, but decades. And the partnership moves across sectors, verticals. It's more about people-to-people contact. So that is what we have to keep in mind, that people first, and that's what matters. The moment you decide that, yes, we are together, we are friends, we are brothers in arms, and that is what will take you ahead and stand up to the rest of the world. You stand your own, you hold your identity. Today, as Indians, I would say we are proud from what our government has been doing recently. And as an Indian, we can go anywhere in the world and say that, yes, we are from India. I still remember 15, 20 years ago when I used to travel, people used to ask me, oh, are you from Arab or are you from Egypt or from wherever in the world? And today, when the moment somebody sees you, they said, oh, you're from India, you're from Hindustan, you're from Indistan, all the words. Even I do not remember when last I heard Hindustan being called in India. And across the world, when I travel, people ask me, you're from Hindustan or Indistan. So that is the change that has been brought about. So it is about the identity. It's about our thousands of years of culture. And it is about our friends that have been brought us together. So with this, I would like to begin today's session, and I would like to thank all of you all who've been come here. Thank you, Kobi. It's all your support. And Sagi, thank you. And we have a lot of virtual participation also from Israeli agencies today. We have the Israel Innovation Society. We have the Federation of Israeli Chambers, which is the FICC equivalent of Israel. We've got research analysts who've been working with India since 35 years. So it's going to be an interesting session. And of course, all the people who are here with us today. So welcome and have a lovely morning.
Thanks very much, Manpreet. Great words indeed. Let's take this ahead for blossoming the friendship between Israel and India. Looking forward to that. It gives me great pleasure now to invite His Excellency Consul General of Israel, Mr. Kobi Shoshani. Please, sir, for the welcome address. Thank you. Big applause, please.
Manpreet, my friend, Manpreet, thank you very much, first of all, for inviting us. Mr. Mitasan, where are you? Disappeared. Thank you very much for you as well. Thank you for my colleague Sagi and all the distinguished guests here. I have to say, when I've listened, not for the first time, of course, for your national anthem, I realized that there is another things that we have in common, which I'm going to speak today, that we both have a fantastic and emotional anthem. I have to admit that I don't know all the words by heart, but I know the most important words, which is in the end of the anthem, Jai Hind. And I think today, Jai Hind, Jai Israel, and I think it's extremely important. India and Israel celebrate 30 years of full diplomatic relations. In January 1992, I was here as a young diplomat, right after the establishment of the relations. But the relations, the economic, the connection, the commercial connections between Israel and India started long time before 1992, with the drip irrigation, with military, with diamonds. But right now, we're in a completely different scale. Without entering into politics, I think that since Prime Minister Modi ji came into power, he personally, fantastic boost to the relations. His visit to Israel was unforgettable in Israeli eyes, and I think that the visit of then Prime Minister Netanyahu here was extremely important. He was visiting Mumbai as well. Then I think it brings the connection and the relations between the states into a completely different level. As I mentioned before in the round table that we had, I'm here not to sell. I'm here to collaboration. We need you, and I think together we can bring everything up to the skies, not only between India and Israel, to expand it all over the world. The relations, the special relations that we have only in the last 2 years with the United Arab Emirates bring a complete different scale to a new allies. And I speak about allies afterwards Israel is not a competitor economy to India. We are a complement economies. We can do something together. We are a startup nation. We have a lot of innovative things. You have a fantastic industry. And I'm telling that not because I think that you have fantastic industry, because I saw it in a very close eyes. I was in Pune last week with the EV summit. I was amazed. Amazed by the vision, amazed by the technology, amazed by the industry. I'm visiting Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, of course here Maharashtra and Goa. I saw the fantastic potential that you have here. You have to be proud to be an Indian. I tell you, not because you are here, because I truly believe you have a fantastic state. I'm coming with a big love to India. When they asked me to speak about Israel, I thought, okay, I have only 15 minutes. I can speak about Indo-Israeli relations for 3 hours. What should I say? And I would like, with your permission, of course, to emphasize in 3 main points. But before that, I know that my colleague, the Consul of Economy here, is the right person to connect, and he will speak afterwards. I just would like to thank him. He's a brilliant guy, one of the top of the ministry, and I tell you that because his bosses told me that. One of the best economy as attaché consul of economy in the world. And I think you have a fantastic partner. The second one is Anai. Anai, if you can just stand for a second, he works with us and we have fantastic projects. And I would like to speak about some of them now. Then let me emphasize in 3 points that I found that it's important to emphasize the cooperation between India and Israel. If I mention the name climate change, probably you will ask yourself, what is the connection between India to Israel? And I tell you there is a lot of in common. I tell you why. Before I came to India, it was in 2021, India was number 550. It was the 5th in the world sixth in the world in the GDP and of course industrial production. Number 6th in the world. Today you are number 5 because of 2 main issues: your strength and vision of your industry, and the second thing, Make in India. Whether foreigners like Make in India or not, I think it's a fantastic idea for India. I can say that we are the right partners to integrate with the idea. Startup nation, big industry, fantastic markets, we can do something together that can change the world. But this Make in India and this production come along with a lot of issues. Have you heard about the Indian paradox? I tell you what is the Indian paradox. The more you produce, the more emission, the more climate change, less rain, and it's circle that bring everything together. It's a question of energy as well. Then what is the connection to Israel? The connections to Israel is that I think with technology. You know what? Let me do it like that. Let's not be naive. To reduce the emission to 0, it's something that it's not good for India. It's good for the world. But don't be naive. In order to produce more, in order to bring more to your citizen, to the welfare of India, I always say that every day to give water to 1.4 billion people, to give food to 1.4 billion, to give a job to 1.4 billion, this is part of your responsibility, whether you like it or not. Not to everybody, but at least to some of them. That was part of. then to bring the emission, and believe me, I'm a great believer in climate change and a great believer in, in the environment. This is come with technology. Technology reduce emission, can produce more with less. In agriculture, in water, in of course, in pollution, and there is a variety of things that I think that maybe Mr. Richard will elaborate afterwards. Then the Indian paradox bring challenges, and I think that we are at the right place to cooperate and to reduce the climate change or to fight against climate change with technology, not to bring it into zero, just to reduce it. The second thing is medical. I don't like to use the word we donated the machine, because it's not a donation. It's a win-win situation. 2 or 3 months ago, the Minister of Foreign Affairs gave a machine to Tata Memorial Hospital. The machine is very simple. It's not very simple, it's not very cheap, but basically it's very simple. It's dealing with a cell cancer, especially breast cancer. The idea is, instead of making operation, surgeries with knives and all these things, you put a needle into the infected cell, freeze the cell, 10 minutes, the ice melt down, 1 hour just to relax, and the ladies go home. No hospitalization, nothing at all. 98% of success in the early stages. 98. Now, this is Israeli machine, Israeli innovation. What is the connection to India? Of course there is. We won. First of all, we need the research. We need cooperation. We need to know how it works. We need 5 years of experiment. Then we learn from your fantastic doctors, and you have a fantastic doctors. Fantastic facility. I think Tata Hospital, I tell you just an anecdote that it was a big fight with the quotation mark, between JJ Hospital and the Tata Hospital. Who's going to get their machine? It's expensive. And I went to Minister Tope and he told me, okay, decide which hospital do you want to give the machine. I said, listen, I'm a diplomat. I'm not a minister. You are the minister. Decide. And eventually we found a solution and brought it to Tata. And I think that was the right solution. And that was medical win-win situation that we can coordinate, but this is only a sample. This is the medical. And I that I've mentioned before, and I planning something dramatic. I don't know if you know, Israel is very strong with cyber. The idea is to build in Pune a cyber center. Now, okay, there is a lot of cyber centers in the world. I assume you have quite fantastic. What is the connection between India and Israel? The idea is that we are going to make it in a completely different scale and different ID. All these small companies, mid-sized companies, they don't have sometimes specialists, they don't have the money to invest in specialists for cyber. And whether you like it or not, believe me, you are under attack. The only thing is that you don't know that. We spoke about cancer before, maybe nobody knows what he has inside. And it's difficult. And you're going to pay price for it. Now, companies doesn't have the money. The idea is a call center to build up in Pune. People call this center, get an advice, and make a solution. That was the first idea. The second thing is education. Most of the universities in Pune is fighting to get this cyber center into their place. And we have to choose. As I told you, I'm a diplomat, I'm not a minister. We'll find out what it is. But the idea is 2 units. One is education, and one is solution to companies that are going to bring together. I think Israel needs to bring money in that. I think the Indian government needs to put money. I think you need to understand that you have a problem, and we are, I think, sorry to be not modest, #1 in the world with cyber. Like in water, by the way. Well, I think this is our top qualities. But I need your help. I need your help understanding and promoting this idea of this cyber center, as I mentioned now. I promise that I will not speak long and I'm going to finish, but 2 days ago, one of my best friends in Israel is big fighter against climate change. I don't know if you know, the Dead Sea has become dried, and he published some film about how to fight against this Dead Sea. But one sentence that he mentioned in Hebrew, and I tried to translate it, show everything what I'm expect between the two countries. He said something like that, and I'm trying to translate it from Hebrew. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with the friends. And that is my end of my short speech. And I think that's what I would like. We are friends. Please go together. The sky is the limit. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, His Excellency, for a wonderful speech. For me, some key takeaways, one of the most important ones, I think, was how we as businesswomen and businessmen in this room have the responsibility of helping our population to get jobs and to grow. The power of collaboration, the power of technology to fight climate change and to improve our environment. So thank you so much for a wonderful speech, sir. Thank you. I would now like to ask His Excellency, Sir Vikas Mitra Sen, President of IBG, and the Consul General of Mali, to share a few words with us, please. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for inviting me to this exquisite event. I'm thankful to the guests on the table, especially the Consul General of Israel, to ask me to be with him on the same platform. I'm not giving a long talk because I'm not prepared. He has probably come prepared for this. But the short points which come to mind, I'd like to speak. First, I'm extremely impressed, and I've always been, by the methodology in Israel, that when somebody graduates, he doesn't just go out into the world and start working somewhere or starting a business. They have to do a compulsory 2-year stint in the army. And every person has to do that. So when they come out to actually work, they are so extraordinarily disciplined and they work so hard. I've seen it myself. It's unbelievable. In fact, I would recommend to the Indian government to start something like this in India. I know we are too many, but still start it so that when we come out into this world, we work and we're so disciplined, so honest. It's an amazing situation out there. One small thing which I think most Indians don't know about Israel is that it is populated by a lot of our Parsis. When Israel was formed, many Parsis went away to Israel because they thought that that is their homeland being formed. Am I right, sir? So that was one point which I wanted to bring out on this platform. The most thing that is remarkable is the startup companies out there. Sir, I just mentioned to you that I'm going to be talking about that. The startup companies out there are absolutely extraordinary. It is the #1 startup nation in the world. Why I'm speaking about startup is because I run a tech company and we fund a lot of startups. And we find that the tech companies, the startups in Israel are the best in the world. And that's why they are growing so fast. The economy is growing so fast because of the startup thing. India is also following suit quite fast now. So that is to be kept in mind, that my recommendation is that anybody who wants to do a startup company, go and work in a company in Israel for a year or 2 years and then start up on their own. And finally, I want to thank Mr. Manpreet. He has been a benefactor to IBG and to me personally since a long time. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Vikas, sir, for the kind words. I would now like to invite Mr. Sagi, from the Ministry of Economy and Industry, Israel, to share how India and Israel are cooperating and the opportunities ahead of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. Shalom. Namaste ji. Namaskar. मेरा नाम thank you. मेरा नाम Sagi है. I'm the economic consul. Hindi bolo tora. So I speak very few words in Hindi. Managed to pick up in my 2 years, 2 saal, Mumbai mein. So first of all, thank you all for coming. Thank you all for being with us on this morning. Manpreet ji, thank you so much for inviting me, for inviting us to take care of this wonderful event and to be here with you guys. Your Excellency, Mr. Shoshani, thank you very much. My name is Sagi, and I'm overseeing with the Israeli Consulate here in Mumbai. I'm seeing the economic affairs between Israel and Indian companies, businesses. I will try to deliver a short, and I hope short and sweet presentation, and to describe what is it we're doing, what is it we're offering to you. Like our Honorable CG said, it's partnerships for the long terms, it's friendships. That's the only way to succeed, in my opinion. If one wants to succeed in India and in the Indian market, this is the only way that this can be done. So without further ado, okay. Take a look on this slide, probably the best slide in this deck. I love it. It just speaks of Israel, showing few of our beautiful natural sites. I love this one. So Israel in a nutshell. First of all, let's just locate Israel, see where we are in the world. I don't know if anybody was in Israel or visited in the past, but heart of the Middle East, okay, eastern coast of the Mediterranean. Extremely small country population-wise, extremely small country size-wise, geographically. That's where we are, that's where we're located. If you compare India to Israel, this is the ratio. India is 150 times bigger in size from Israel. Population-wise, by the way, much more than that. Israel is smaller than the city of Bangalore. Okay, this is how small is Israel in comparison to India. Yet, with a small country, we have very good innovative minds. We have very strong economy. Trying to be modest, but with this, I have to take some pride and just, show you a few figures that is putting Israel ranking here, our economy extremely stable and doing extremely well. This is with COVID, with other issues. I'm sorry, can we go back to full screen? So yeah, something we take a lot of pride of. We moved on, by the way, we moved on in terms of GDP per capita in the last year. Israel is among the developed or Western, if they call it this way, economies. Israel did the best during 2021 with over 8% growth, which is again a fantastic number. We take great pride of it. GDP per capita, again, you can locate Israel. It's only among the OECD countries, so Israel is again situated well. We moved, if I'm not mistaken, 3 spots to the right. Okay, we moved ahead. GDP per capita has grown by now. Where do I come from and what do I do in this world in terms of me as a public servant, as a government official? So the Ford administration is operating missions, economic missions, trade missions all over the globe. You can see the spread. You can see what we do. We have solved the trade barriers. We connect businesses, we connect people, we connect them in the right way. We make trade relations go far and go for the long term with people all over the world. Israel and India are actually engaging for some time now for the FTA, for the Foreign Trade Agreement, which we also take care of. We're hoping that due to Mr. Dr. Jashankar's visit to Israel, he was invited there end of last year by Honorable Foreign Minister, Mr. Lapid. We hope that his visit will enhance this process, and by the end of this year, we will see the Foreign Trade Agreement signed between the countries, which will help all of us to promote business and trade between the sides with the reduction of tariffs and tax barriers. This is our goal. This is what we do in the world. We try to promote the Israeli export into India, meaning we try to create fruitful, good joint ventures between Indian and Israeli companies. As I mentioned, joint ventures is good relationships, long-term ones. That's what we're aiming for. That's what we'd like to offer to you today. At the same time, we're trying to attract investments from India to Israel. Indians are very favorable of Israeli tech. They love to adopt it and acquire it and implement it. At the same time, they're not investing their capital in the same tech, in the same people, the same entrepreneurs. This is something that we would like to change and see more Indian capital flowing to Israel in the sense that Indian investors, strategic investors, will benefit from their investments. This is what we can offer you. Anyone is here in the room is an Indian businessman, is owning a company. So this is what we can offer you. Everything you need for the Israeli market. You need it to be a research. You need to know a company. You need to understand how things are working. You heard about a company, you read about a company, somewhere in the newspaper or on social media, and you want to get connected to them. You want to understand their business better. Let us know. We'll help you with that. We'll arrange everything for you. You want to travel to Israel? We have few delegates going these days to Israel now for various things. We also help them do whatever they need. As India is a huge country, and as India is a huge market, and most importantly, as Israel, the state of Israel, cherish and honor India as one of its most important friends and allies throughout the world, not to mention in Asia. Israel has in India 3 different offices. Normally we have one. We have one embassy, okay? That's it. Perhaps the exceptions may be the US and China because they're big again, but that's it. So here in India, we have 3 different missions, okay? One is obviously in Delhi in the embassy. Second one is in Bangalore, and the third one is here in Mumbai. Me and my friends and colleagues, you can see them there, Natasha and Joey, trying to cover India, trying to cover the Indian market with Israeli and Indian companies, okay? This is my team. This is my teammates. You probably met them or bumped into them in the past. They are the ones who are actually doing all the hard work, all 4 of them, talented, dedicated young men and women that are there to serve you and help you in any way possible in whatever you need regards of Israel. So it was spoken here before by all the honorable guests and honorable speakers. I'll try to take this maybe to emphasize it from my point. So Israel is a hub of innovation. It's no secret, it's well known, it's spoken of in the past. You can see just a few of the figures here, which in my understanding are nothing less than amazing. Look how many Israeli startups are there. Look how much of our GDP is coming from the high tech, from the very, very high tech, cutting edge companies. It's one of our economy's most important locomotives, taking, not only the entire economy, but one of the major factors of our economy. And our GDP is driven due to our very, very strong, innovative, very, very strong tech companies, tech-related companies. We're ranked 3rd in the world in terms of innovation. I'm sorry, in terms of listed companies on the NASDAQ. So we're second only to the US and China. And again, tiny country, 9 million people. Few of the names you might saw or met in the past. Netafim is very well known in India. Teva is very well known, but other things that came from Israel, Checkpoint, Viber, Get, again, automotive, medical, agriculture, water, cybersecurity, defense, clean tech. Okay, I'll touch about it in the future, but just a few of the names you can think when you think about Israel that comes to mind. This huge, this amazing, this great innovative ecosystem did not sleep the minds of the huge MNCs in the world. They all have presence in Israel. It's only a handful. I can just mention that Apple has a center in Israel. Tech Mahindra has a center in Israel. Hyundai has it. The Volkswagen Group by Audi, they have it as well. So many, many more that you don't see here on this slide because, well, we lack space, are centered in Israel. They have an R&D center in Israel because they recognize the advantage and the strength of the Israeli innovative ecosystem and companies. By the way, we would love to see more Indian companies operate and have R&D centers in Israel. There's Nandan Jain, right? Tech Mahindra is there as well. And maybe the Tatas used to be there. Not enough. We need more and more Indian companies to operate with us, to do joint R&D with us for the Israel and Indian benefits, for a mutual benefit. Few of the Israeli unicorns, probably read or saw a few of them. We added last year another 17. During 2021, 17 more unicorns were listed mainly on the NASDAQ on Wall Street and in Tel Aviv. stock markets. We take, again, great pride of that as well. Few of the main industries, as Manpreet ji, guided me beforehand. Few of the main sectors we should mention today. Energy. Israel is doing fantastic on all the clean tech industries, focusing on solar energy. And something that I encourage all of you to notice and learn about, green hydrogen. Okay, yeah, it's early stage. Yeah, it's early technologies. It's right, but it's here. Technology is here, research is here, and need to be aware of it. If you're related somehow to the energy sectors, somehow to energy industries, something to be aware of. Okay, so this is a very short spread out of the Israeli companies, above 300 startups dedicated only to clean tech and renewable energies. Okay, green hydrogen is going to be probably a disruptive technology. As soon as it will be more advanced. It's going to change the way we produce energy. It's going to be great effect on carbon and emissions spread out through the globe. If you haven't heard about it, Google it, because it's going to be disruptive. Again, few Israeli companies, not many of them are doing it today. A very good one is H2 Pro that we've been in touch with. But solar, wind, water, energy, batteries, everything that you need to do with clean tech companies, if you invested in it, if your partners are looking into it. I know India is also, in a sense, booming with the clean tech, solar panels, solar feeds, renewable energies. We all heard what Shri Modi ji said about India's goals to 2030. And without a doubt, in Israel-India collaboration, on the governmental level, on the B2B level, you name it, will be meaningful and will be a game changer for both countries. The healthcare in Israel, again, we take a lot of pride in it. Israelis, all Israelis. So we have me today here, you have Mr. Shoshani here. An Israeli that you'll meet throughout your life has an insurance policy by the government. And why is that important? Because innovative companies, entrepreneurs understand that. Understand there is a market, there's hospitals, there are clinics, there are health maintenance organizations that are going to consume tech, they're going to consume medical devices, they're going to consume telemedicine, they're going to consume wearables. Okay, we're talking now in Israel about all those things, how to make you as a patient stay at home, not because we don't like you, because for you, mainly if you're elder, something I think maybe in a sense that COVID enhanced, stay at home, you turn on your mobile, the doctor will check you, will examine you. If they don't need you to make the travel to the clinic, avoid it. Okay, it saves you time, it saves you money, it saves you emissions in your car. If needed, come, for sure, we'll treat you 100%, but if not, stay home. So something that Israelis are focusing a lot on. I think in India, during COVID, this is something that more and more people got concerned with. How do I can get treatment from home without leaving my doorstep? So again, healthcare is something which is definitely relevant when we talk about Israel, medical devices, anything you can think of is already there. Fintech. If you have a business, and everybody here in this room, if you have a business, it means that you need to receive and pay money, right? You need to receive it from your customers and pay it to your vendors, to your suppliers. Anything which is related to this should be done today, virtually, digital. The systems are safe enough. Israelis are doing anti-fraud. They're securing your processes A to Z. You don't need to worry anymore. They can give you insurtech solutions. They can give you whatever you need in order to make your business cashless. And don't worry, there's no risk in it, okay? There's no risk in going cashless. On the contrary, it will make your life much easier. The transactions much faster. Your accountants and bookkeepers will have time to enjoy the beach at Goa much more than they did till now, because everything will be online anyway. No papers is needed anymore today. So again, Israelis are very good about that. We have more than 500 fintech companies dedicated only to this sector in Israel these days. Sorry. Again, HLS, something Israel is very well known from, CCTV cameras, airport security, anti-drone, anti-human. If you're working with any critical infrastructure entity, governmental or private, it's much needed. Again, long-term collaborations, those systems, that's what they require. And that's what we're trying to offer here today, that you will approach us and tell us what would you need. Lastly, I don't think I could add any more to what is already said about Honorable CG, about how well Israel is doing with water. How much did we manage to save in water? It's related directly to climate change. I don't think any further explanation is needed. Every drop you save will make our children and our grandchildren's life better. And Israel is doing it since the 30s. Okay, even before we had a state, Israel was founded 8 months after India. Before we had a state, we were preserving water. This is how important is water for us. Israel is arid and semi-arid country. Desert is growing, population is growing, and we have more water than we need these days. Okay, so this is something that should be happening in India today. There's no any reason why not. So something for us again to look on and to push together. Please get in touch with us. Follow us on LinkedIn, send us emails. Whatever that you need from us, we're here for you. I can strongly recommend our LinkedIn page. Everything that we did or will do in the future is already there. You can link up, you can register to online events, you can find out more about our physical events, hybrid events we're having these days with COVID, thanks God, being a bit out of the picture. So please follow us, get in touch with us. We appreciate that. Thank you all very much for your time. Thank you for your, Manpreet, thank you very much for the invitation. Thank you for your guidance. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
So I hope everyone found that very enlightening. I think there is tremendous opportunity, a plethora of opportunities between India and Israel and both nations to work towards achieving those goals. So, and this is fantastic. My one thing about is the culture part, right? Sagi, just 30 seconds. One of my favorite series on Netflix is Faura. I'm sure everyone is aware of that terrific series. And the other movie, The Spy, which is a real story, also on Netflix. Some of my favorite of all time. I wanted to understand, do Israelis also love Hindi films and have learned some of our moves?
Last week, I give you a lecture of 1 hour. But I'll start with something with Fauda. Next, the beginning of May. Yes,
It's on.
On the beginning of May, one of the stars of Fauda, very Israeli stars in a movie, Shalev is supposed to come here. And I'll host him for a dinner. Then it's going to be a big drama, especially for Fauda lovers. I tell you frankly, the Indian industry, film industry, I know the industry for long before I came here. I have favorite actor and actress.
Oh, wow.
I have favorite films, and I can give you a lecture. I tell you very in a nutshell. I assume that probably most of the people know the film Two States.
Yes.
Are you familiar with the film?
Yes, Two States.
I think it's
yes.
one of his most fantastic films in made in India, and it showed the cultural differences between North. He came from Punjab.
Yes.
And the lady came from
South of India.
Which
Southern part. Yeah.
Tamil Nadu.
Yes.
In Tamil Nadu, no?
Yes, that's right.
That is South. Then it's fantastic, and and the interaction between the food, which is fantastic, and the music and the culture, and I have to choose between north to south. I tell you frankly, I was in the north. Manjit knows I was in the Golden in Amritsar in the Golden Temple, and I was in Munnar, and both of them amazing. You have a fantastic. That's the first. The second thing, but if you promise not to tell my wife, I'm crazy about Vidya Balan.
Yeah, well, we all are, by the way.
No, it's only me. She's a fantastic, I think,
yes,
actress.
she's brilliant.
I met her with my wife, and in the end of the meeting, my wife told me when we went out, you have a very good taste. I don't know if she meant to her or to, but anyway, I'll leave it open. But you have a fantastic.
She's a brilliant actress. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you very much indeed. So can I request everyone on the dais to take the seats? We have virtual session and a couple of speeches, so you won't be able to otherwise see it. Thank you so much and sorry for the trouble. We're now going to have a virtual session. Bring that up, please. Sir, please. We're going to be joined by Mr. Or Nehushtan from the International Relations Division, Federation of the Israeli Chamber.
Hello, everyone. Namaste.
Hi, Mr. Or. Please take it on.
Hi, good morning. It's a pleasure to be here today. I would like to, first of all, thank our dear friend, Mr. Manpreet Singh, for inviting me to take part in this very exciting event. I heard the speeches before, and I won't be too long, just to tell you a few words about FICC. I would also like to say hello, first of all, to Mr. Vikash Misteren, the president of IBG, also partners of FICC, and to the president of the Rotary Club, President Amaya Pradhan, And also hello to Mr. Kobi Shoshani, the Consul for the State of Israel. It's a pleasure to see you, and I love the stories you just said. You inspired me to share a short story of myself in a few moments. And of course, Mr. Sagi, our dear friend and partner, the economic attaché in India. As I said, my name is Nehushtan. I'm the Business Development Manager for Asia Pacific and India in the International Division of the Federation of Israeli Chambers of Commerce. The FICC is the home for businesses in Israel. We represent the interests of the businesses in Israel, different fields, headed by experienced men and women who share the interest and debate with the government on how to promote the ease of business in Israel. Us at the International Department of FICC, we work to help our members find partners abroad. So importers, for instance, looking to import from India, we use our connections with the IBG, with FICC, of course, with IMC, and all our dear friends in India to connect them to relevant and reliable suppliers in India. We also help Indian companies share the opportunities among our members, and we help Israeli exporters, mostly in the field of tech. Sagi and Kobi earlier mentioned the agri-tech field and water tech, and of course the different other tech fields like fintech that Israel has a lot to offer in. And it is a pleasure to work with Sagi and the Consulate and the economic attaché who help us and help our members introduce amazing business.
Bear with us, guys, just some connection issue. We'll give him a few seconds. Manpreet, next time we need a Bollywood dance number, please, for His Excellency to enjoy right now. I need to prepare myself before I start dancing, you know that, right? So, is he back online?
It was disconnected when I finished my explanation about the Federation of Israeli Chambers of Commerce, and I just wanted to share you a very short story. Mr. Kobi Shoshani, the Consul General for Israel, shared a story about films in India. I have my own very personal story. When I was younger, we had a guest, an Israeli from India who made Aliyah, a Jewish Indian who came to Israel many, many years ago, over 50 years ago. And when my father was in university, he did this program to help young immigrants to Israel to interact with other Israelis and do better at university, do better in school. And he kept in touch with this young man. His name is Avi Avshalom. And he used to visit us when I was a kid, and my father was long after his graduation from university. And he used to come to our house as a guest, and the only thing he would watch was Indian films. So my introduction to India was before I knew anything about geography, anything about India. It was through your beautiful and remarkable culture. Later, I've had the experience of visiting India myself, and needless to say, I fell in love with the country. I read several books about India, some written by Israelis, some not. And I must say that I'm really looking forward to the next chance of visiting. At the meantime, you can rely on me and Mr. Manpreet Singh and our partners in FICC, and of course, Sagi and his team to do what we can to connect Indian businesses with Israeli companies. Thank you very much for your time, and good luck at the event.
Thank you very much, Mr. Orr, for joining us. Next up, we have Ms. Urvashi Dhall from Paras Defense and Space Technologies. Welcome aboard, please. Your presentation should be coming up any second.
Am I on now? Yeah. So by the time the presentation is on, I think I'll take you back to 1979, a sole proprietor, a small company, a man in Mumbai with a vision of manufacturing defense ultra precision products. And now in 2022, here we are, a listed entity with over 400 people, one of the most trusted defense and space suppliers. We are Paras Defense and Space Technologies. That's a success story for now. That's a company at a glance. Being a defense and space company, I'm sure you know R&D runs in our blood. It's a bread and butter for us. We are agile. We are scalable. We're a blend of young talents and domain experts that helps us with the largest range of products and services we have. We are a one-stop shop for our customer needs. We are almost everywhere. Whether you need electromagnetic pulse protection solutions, whether you need infrared lenses, we are there for you. Whether you need electronic components or you need heavy engineering products, Paras Defense is right there for you. Application areas, as you can see, I think we are proud to be part of most of the prestigious programs of India as well as outside India. We've been there in Chandrayaan, we've been there for Pinaka motor tubes, we've also been there in Tejas. So, and I think going forward, growing with His Excellency and with Sagi, I look forward to this even more. Our certificate speaks for themselves. The one I would like to highlight here is that we are ITAR cleared. That means we are even exporting to US military programs. So Israel's been important to us. It's a very important friend. Going back to 2007, where we had our first order with them, to 2011, where we signed Israel's first tripartite agreement with Rafael and Shaban, to 2015, where we executed TIFC's multi-million-dollar program. And we didn't only stop at supplying to them. We also started exploring M&A opportunities. And I'm very proud to tell you that I myself recently in 2021 executed an equity deal in Israeli drone company. Talking about growing, talking about partnerships, Paras Defense is a parent company to 3 blooming subsidiaries. Paras Aerospace, it's into completely drone and drone service providing solutions. Paras Anti-Drone, which is into anti-drone solution providing. And I think Sagi was mentioning about anti-drone. I'd like to highlight over here that, again, we are there for Israel here. And Opel Technologies, that's a wholly owned subsidiary based out of Singapore. Now, amidst of all this work, amidst of everything we are doing, there is a buzz in our company. Something exciting is coming up. Something is brewing up. And I think I'll let my colleague Vishal talk about that.
Thank you, Urvashi. It's an honor to be here. Imagine a global marketplace which lets people connect with each other. Buyers can meet sellers, job seekers can meet employers, investors can meet individuals and companies who are looking to raise funds, or individuals who are ready to build a community of their own. Well, presenting to you DevSpace, this is an initiative by Paras. What we do in DevSpace is we create business opportunities by enabling buy and sell of products, services, transfer of technology and tenders. We create investment opportunities wherein we let investors meet the newer upcoming businesses and give them exposure to grow their businesses. We create jobs wherein we let the job seekers meet the employers. We also aim to reach out to ex-servicemen who are willing to expand their services to upcoming businesses. And we create communities. Wherein you can get along with like-minded people and create business networking groups and have more meaningful discussions within the defense and space sector. We take pride in informing that we are a Startup India recognized initiative, and we are doing our bit to take the government of India's vision to be self-reliant forward. Thank you.
So thank you very much. So, I come from the Marwadi community. Just let me know after this new initiative, iska share price badega kya? So look, up until now, I used to always think of one woman whenever India's defense used to come into play. That was ex-defense minister, Mrs. Nirmala Sitharaman. And now the second woman I'll think of is Urvashi. It is so nice to have her represent India in such a strategic space. So thank you very much, Urvashi, and more power to you. All the best. We are now going to be joined virtually by, sorry, my bad, by Ms. Nili Shalev, International Division at the Israel Innovation Authority, India-Israel Bilateral R&D Fund. Is she available? Wonderful.
Hello.
Welcome, Ms. Nili.
Hi. Thank you very much. Thank
Over
you for
to you.
having me. Can I share my screen, please?
Sorry, you can go ahead.
Yes, can I share my screen?
Yeah, you should be able to. Yeah, you can share.
It's disabled, so I'd be happy to share my screen.
Oh.
Meanwhile, I would say hello to everybody. My name is Nili Shalev. I'm the VP of the
You've been given the
International
permission. You can share the screen.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Just bear with me. So I hope you can see my screen. Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me and joining this event. My name is Nili Shalev. I'm the VP of the International Division at the Israel Innovation Authority. I would like to, I don't know if the Consul General is still there, good friend of mine from a long time ago, Kobi Shoshani. So I saw you previously on stage, as well as Sagi Ichel, the commercial attaché or trade representative. So hello, everybody, and thank you for having me. In my short presentation today, I would like to share with you a little bit about the Israel Innovation Authority and a little bit about the Israeli high-tech ecosystem, as well as our focused activity with India, which hopefully this event can also be a platform to share the information and hopefully bring more collaboration through this mechanism. So Israeli high-tech industry during the COVID years, so 2021 was one of the strongest years for the Israeli high-tech industry. We broke records, and today the Israeli high-tech industry is 47% of our exports and 25% of our income tax comes from high tech. So it's a quite substantial sector for Israel. And we used to say that this is the locomotive that pushes the Israeli industry forward. It was also a record year in capital raising for Israeli companies. Almost $18 billion were raised by Israeli high-tech companies, and Israeli high-tech companies also reached a huge market value of $300 billion. Those companies traded in the US, and maybe you know, but Israel is the second largest country after the US and China that is traded in NASDAQ. Last year was also a very unique year in the number of unicorns that were that came out of Israel, and we reached a number of 72, which is quite phenomenal for such a small country. When we look at the Israeli ecosystem, one of the main characteristics is the presence of multinational companies. Multinational companies are a very strong player in the R&D system in Israel, and they are responsible for 50% of the high-tech R&D activity in Israel. This is quite a huge number, we see many, many multinational companies that come to Israel not because of our market size, which you know is quite small, but because of the R&D capabilities. I am quite positive that India is very similar to Israel with its R&D capabilities, and also you see a great presence of multinational companies in India as well. When another characteristic of Israel is the high expenditure on civilian R&D. So Israel spends today about 5% of our GDP spent on civilian R&D. This is on top of the defense and military activity. This is the highest percentage in the world. And the reason is because this is our main asset. So this is where we invest most of our funding. And the interesting aspect in this is that it is mainly done by the private sector. So the government is a very small player here. It's only about 5% of the investment is done by the government. Most of the investment is done by the private sector. But when we look at Israel, of course, Israel wasn't in 1948, we weren't a high-tech nation. We started with agriculture, we started with plastic manufacturing, and along the years, we grew up to establish R&D capabilities to become a startup nation, but now we are looking even further. We want to see ourselves as an innovation nation, as a scale-up nation. We want to see companies grow in Israel and not just do R&D. When we look at the Israeli ecosystem, it's quite a functioning ecosystem. You know, India is a huge country, Israel is a tiny country, and being small doesn't have a lot of advantages, but building an ecosystem is quite easy when you are such a small country. So we have very strong linkage between the army and young Israelis that go to the army, study, and practice their capabilities and go out to the high tech, research and academia, between the startup community, the funding mechanisms and the VCs, the growth companies, the multinational companies, and the government activity. This is a very functioning ecosystem that brings a lot of value to us in high tech. So now a little bit about the Israel Innovation Authority. Israel Innovation Authority is a new entity, but quite an old activity. We have been in the Israeli ecosystem for about 50 years, supporting industrial R&D in Israel. So today we are focused to support industrial R&D for the economic growth of Israel, to strengthen the high-tech ecosystem and the technology ecosystem, and to enable disruptive and new technologies. The way that we do that is we put our focus on market failures. We are on the one hand, market failures, but our philosophy is a bottom-up approach. We support any type of technology and along the life cycle of a project or a company, from a single entrepreneur to a large company. We provide support throughout the life cycle. If we look a little bit on numbers on what we do, we have a budget of about $500 million that is allocated annually to the Israeli industry. On top of it, we have another $150 million for international activity, including the collaboration that we have with India. We are about 140 employees plus 180 technological evaluators. This gives us a lot of value of knowledge of what's happening in the Israeli ecosystem. We receive about 4,500 applications a year, and we approve about 50% of them. We have various programs. The way that we approve projects is according to their technological excellence, capabilities of the team, and market potential. And we provide it as a conditional loan. We give funding to the company. If the company is successful, they need to pay us back royalties out of sales. And if the company fails, we fail together. Our failure rate is about 70%. And this is good for us because we want to be risk takers. We are not the private market. We want to complement the private market. We want to invest in future technologies, riskier technologies. We receive about 30% of our funding back from royalties. And this is a number that we feel comfortable with because we are government supporting innovation, not private funding or bank. A little bit about the Israel-India collaboration. So 5 years ago, Israel and India established a joint fund to support industrial R&D collaboration between Indian companies and Israeli companies. We work together with DST, and GITA is the entity that implements the agreement on the Indian side. We allocated both governments about $40 million for 5 years. We are just now discussing the renewal of the fund. And we provide up to $2.5 million per project, or 50% of the total R&D budget. We have 2 calls for proposals a year. So until now, we had 8 calls for proposals. Currently, there is a 9th on air. We had 63 submissions. We approved about 20 projects, and we allocated almost half of the funding. This allows basically 1 Indian company, 1 Israeli company to work together on the project and to get financing from the fund. Each project can receive up to $1.25 million from each side. And you always need to find matching funding. We never provide 100% of the funding. This is also right for our big fund. We always want to see that the companies are able to bring matching funding from home or from external investors. Here as well, there is royalty payment if the project succeeds, and we can fund the projects for up to 2 years. It can be a full-scale R&D project or an adaptation of a product to a market. Again, it's a collaboration between 2 for-profit companies. Research institutions and academic institutions can participate as well in the project as subcontractors to the industry. So always industry is on front. Our areas of priority: agriculture, water, energy, healthcare, and ICT. That basically covers quite a large range of priorities. And a few examples of projects that we supported: we provided $2 million to develop a high-efficiency, low-cost solar water pumping technology, participating AgroSolar from Israel and Vayoda from India. We supported the development of AI-based chest X-ray interpretation tool by Zebra from Israel and Apollo Hospitals. So you can see there is a complementary knowledge, complementary activities. One is bringing a technology, the other is bringing market penetration, or vice versa, or 2 companies that complement technologies to develop a better product or a more advanced product. So we encourage companies that would like to look at this opportunity and receive more information to contact us. Sarah Rosenberg from Israel is the focal point for the fund. You can reach out to us. We will help you find partners in Israel. And we encourage you to look at this opportunity to collaborate with Israeli companies and to submit good, exciting, and impactful projects. I would like to thank you for your time. I apologize that I'm from far. It's not easy to be on Zoom and looking now at an empty stage. Previously, I saw the audience, but thank you very much for the opportunity to present the fund. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Nili Shalev, for your time. I appreciate your patience waiting. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I understand part of the presentation was cut due to resolution, but if you have any queries for Ms. Nili, please send an email to office@ICIB and we will try to get them answered on your behalf. Okay? Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Nili. Next up, we have a presentation by Mr. Devendra Pai, India-Israel Academic and Student Connection, and also from the Rambhau Mhalgi Prabodhini Association. Welcome, Mr. Devendra, please.
Thank you. I would like to thank Manpreet for inviting me and taking Rambhau, Mhalgi, Prabodhini as a partner for this event. Good afternoon, everyone. And, I'm here to talk about eye to eye. The eye to eye. It's not these two eyes, but eye for Israel and eye for India. We both are young nations with a rich culture. We both are young democracies. We both received independence from the British colonies around the same time in the 1940s. We are perhaps one of the only countries in the entire world which is not accused of anti-Semitism against the Jews. We both are victims of terror. We both are multi-party democracies, which causes a big mess in both our countries. We both countries have a very young population. Below the age of 35, both Israel and India's population is nearly 60 to 65% below the age of 35. About 85,000 Jews in Israel have an Indian origin. But unfortunately, only 600 to 1,000 students from India travel to Israel every year for studying. But at the same time, I would say from Israel, nearly about thousands of students come to India after their military program, after their conscription, and they stay in this country for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 months. And they explore every place, right from Tamil Nadu to Goa to Mumbai to the Ghats of Banaras to Uttarakhand and Himachal Pradesh. I mean, a couple of years ago, I went trekking to Uttarakhand, and it was a small village near Consul. It was a village called as Tosh, and we trekked up the Kheer Ganga trek. I encountered a lot of Israelis who had come after their conscription, and they were just enjoying themselves there and greeting everyone, namaste. Then, we went to McLeodganj, and near the hotel where we were staying, there was a big board outside the hotel. And there were near about 20 to 30 posters of yoga classes, of Indian music, of, Indian dance, and all of them were in Hebrew. Not a single poster was there in English language. So, that is the relation which perhaps India and Israel, share informally. Indian students are also one of the most sought after students by the Israeli companies. We saw about the unicorns which are there in Israel. Israel has about 72 unicorns. India has about 96. And I guess India is at number 4 or number 5 internationally when it comes to unicorns. And after India, immediately it's Israel at number 6. So, that is the bond which we have. We are growing strong together. Also, there was an interesting data which came out of the United States last year. Out of the 500 unicorns which are there in the United States, which have been started by about 1,000 founders, 90 of them are from India and about 50 plus are them from Israel. I'm just mentioning about these commonalities because, there is more to us than, what meets the eye. India boasts of a strong economy. Israel boasts of being the startup nation. India boasts and claims of rich academic institutions like the IITs and the IIMs. Wherein, Israel boasts of being one of the best countries when it comes to research and development. India has a massive unexplored market. Israel deals with India in defense and agriculture. And I guess India is the country which constitutes about 40% of Israel's defense exports. So we are the #1 importer of defense goods from Israel. At the same time, for India, we import the largest number of defense equipments from Russia, and the second country from where we import the largest number of defense equipments, that's Israel. This development has happened in the last 4-5 years. It is here that, we need to realize that there are a lot of institutional arrangements which have happened. There is a lot of interaction which happens at the government level. The prime ministers of both the countries, the former prime minister of Israel as well, we have shared a very cordial relation. There is a goodwill among the people of Israel as among the people of India for these two countries, which we have to take it to the next level by increasing study abroad programs, student exchange programs, perhaps hybrid courses as well. There are several universities in India which have a tie-up with universities abroad in the United States, in the UAE, in Malaysia, in Australia, wherein students study in India for a year or two, and then they go to the US or Dubai or Malaysia or Australia for, say, a final semester. We should explore similar programs in terms of India-Israel relations as well. This is the year where we are implementing the new education policy, my friends. And in the new education policy, we have allowed foreign universities to set up their university campuses in India. Can this be a very golden opportunity for the Israel academicians, academies, universities, colleges to partner with the Indian institutions and set up their campuses here is something which we need to explore. Can we go back to the presentation? So this is it's not a presentation, it's basically a collection of pictures from the time when we arranged a study tour, a cultural exchange program with Israel. Israel was celebrating 70 years of independence, and with the help of the consulate, we had a tie-up, and Mr. Anay Zogalekar also helped, to put this through. So the 6-day tour consisted of, visit to the foreign ministry in Israel. We visited a couple of think tanks. It is here that we realized, the problems of India and Israel are very similar when it comes to multi-party democracies, or, there are interest groups which try to halt progress. We visited the holy city of Jerusalem, and I think it was remarkable to see the rich importance given to preserving the heritage in Israel. I mean, just like I mentioned, both the countries, these civilizations are thousands of years old. We existed before the Gregorian calendar came into existence. So we should learn how Israel maintains its history. It's a very unfortunate thing that you go to museums in India, and the guides in the museums are perhaps the most boring people you'll meet. In sharp contrast, go to Israel, visit a historic place, visit a museum, and the most interesting person you would have met in Israel would be a guide. And Israel, gives special importance to the guides, to show them across the rich culture which Israel has. The Holy Wall. It is here that, we realize what Israel is going through. This is a place of national importance, a cultural importance for Israel. I don't want to be politically incorrect, but it would not be wrong to say that, it was something what we felt at Ayodhya as well. Again, this is supposedly the tomb of Jesus Christ, the cross where he was crucified, later where he was laid, where he was buried. I mean, one of the biggest groups which actually was visiting this church were from India. They were from Kerala. So a lot of missionaries from Kerala we met were visiting this church. Again, Israel boasts of, rich food. One more important and significant places which we visited was the Museum of Holocaust. This was the second Holocaust museum I have visited. I have visited the one at the Washington, DC as well, which is, I think, the much bigger museum than this. Now, to understand Holocaust, it is very difficult to understand Holocaust by just reading 1 or 2 paragraphs from our history books. It's very unfortunate that such a big incident happened in the world and we just have 1 paragraph talking about it in our history books. To understand Holocaust, you go visit this museum and you live the Holocaust. I'm getting goosebumps on my body as I speak because this museum preserves literally the names of each and every person who was killed in that Holocaust. They have actual equipments like toothbrushes, bags, shoes, which were belonging to these victims who eventually got killed, who were murdered, who were massacred. So it's a very different experience visiting this Holocaust, again, what touched me was the thinking which originates in Israel. It's not just a modern startup nation for the sake of it. It's very innovative in their lifestyle and approach. So when we entered the museum, we all are given tickets. Huh? We go to a museum in India, you are given tickets. So when we entered the Holocaust Museum, we were given a passport. The passport did not carry our photo. The passport carried the photo, the name, and the details of a person who was killed in the Holocaust. It was so touching. The guide who was actually taking us around, she was a girl, and she was the granddaughter of a survivor of the Holocaust. These are certain lessons which I learned during the visit to the Holocaust Museum. I think the tree which we are standing there, I think is a tree planted by survivors of the Holocaust. We all have seen the Schindler's List, right? Again, coming back to food, food is something which both Israelis and we love. And Israel, because they were displaced from their country for a very long time. So, they were settled in different parts of the world, and they came back to Israel after they achieved independence, and they got back some flavor and culture from their respective countries as well, where they were. So we could see a samosa there. Spices, just like we use in India. He was a fantastic guide, the man with the hat. We cannot compete with the Indian food. So talking about agriculture, so, Middle East is famous for dates, and dates are grown in Israel quite a lot. We also grow dates in India, but then, the efforts taken by the date farmers, they have actually a crane which goes up to the top above the date tree, wherein from up above they can supervise the date. That is the kind of technology which they use in agriculture, which can be of use to us as well. The Red Sea, you won't believe it, but it's a scientific wonder. There's a huge amount of saline salt in that. Basically, it's a lake, and there's a lot of salt inside it. So once you go and jump inside, you float. I don't know swimming. So I think this was the deepest water I would have entered. Again, lots of food which we had. A couple of important slides, and then I'll conclude. So this was an NGO which was working in the border area. When we visited this place, we were oriented with what's happening here. We were told that, it was a bunch of people who wanted to stay away from the city and wanted to live a calm life. Hence, they migrated towards the exterior part of the city. But then, there were a lot of terror activities which happened. Their homes were bombed, and hence a wall was built to protect its citizens who were staying there. So the people who went there to live for peace, unfortunately, the peace was taken away because bombs were coming from across the side. I should appreciate the Israeli government who has taken efforts to save its citizens. There's this wall, and then there's this electrified grid. So if there are any bombs which are coming in the opposite direction, there's a alarm which goes off. There's, like the anti-drone technology, there's the anti-missile technology. So there is immediate attempt to diffuse the bombs in the air itself. These are some of the missiles which had come from the other part, and the empty shells were kept there. Those are bunkers which have been created by the government at every 500 meters. So whenever there's an alarm which goes off, the citizens, if they are outside, wherever they are, they immediately have to rush to the bunker so that they are protected by the incoming missiles and bombs. Finally, we visited the wall, and it was a very different experience. A last slide. So we had an interaction with an officer from the Israeli Defense Force, and his father had specially come down for the interaction. So after the interaction was over, I was introduced to the father, and I was told that he had specially come down for this particular talk, and I wondered why. And then when he introduced himself, I realized he was from Mumbai, Mazgaon. and we spoke in very fluent Marathi. He was asking me what's happening at Shivaji Park and what's happening in Dadar, what's the cultural scene in Mumbai, do you still enjoy the Ganesh festivities, do you still do the Dahi Handi? So he relived his childhood memories when he was interacting with us. Then we had a day program at the university, which welcomed us, and it was a very fruitful interaction as well. The whole point of showing these slides and these pictures, but these were just 5 days of Israel for us. Imagine the amount of learning which we had in those 5 days. This was one of their agricultural experiments wherein they use minimum water to get the maximum output. Can't this be used in India? In areas, which go dry, can we have agriculture throughout the year wherein we have seasonal farming? So these are some of the opportunities which we need to explore with Israel, whether it is about tourism, agriculture, environment, innovation, defense. I would say preserving heritage is one of the areas where India should learn from Israel. We are the 5th largest manufacturing country in the world. Israelis can collaborate with us. We can have some manufacturing units set up here. We are one of the biggest markets in the world, which is potentially untapped. Educational institutions, like I said, we can have joint courses, partly conducted here, partly conducted in Israel. He spoke about Fauda, and it was a rage in India. Indian film industry is the largest film industry in the world. Why can't we collaborate? Literally every other Indian film you see, it is, shot in US, it is shot in France, it is shot in Egypt, it is shot in Australia. Why can't we have Indian movies being shot in Israel? That could be an area which, we can further explore. There's Digital India, there's medicine, there's IT. Lastly, I would, on behalf, very soon, yes. Okay. I remember the Honorable Consul General, Mr. Kobe, about a month ago, there was this whole rage about the Kashmir files. And many people were saying, the stories are similar to whatever Jews have faced, how they were persecuted. And it was Rambhau Mhalgi Prabodhini in this very hall had arranged a talk. I'd send you an invite on Twitter on which you had replied as well. And I think you had sent a message through Anay that you would like to meet Mr. Vivek Agnihotri. So I think it came full circle. We both are here in the hall where the event was. Last but not least, on behalf of Rambhau Mhalgi Prabodhini and Indian Institute of Democratic Leadership, I would like to offer any exchange programs, any university tie-up, any student academia tie-up, if at all is possible with the help of the consulate. We would like to partner them. We would like to host the students of Israel in our campus. In 2019, we hosted about 100 students who had come for a study abroad program in India. They were from the College of Management and Academics. Anna, it was College of Management Academics, right? Tel Aviv. So there were about 100 students who had come to India for a study abroad program. We had hosted them in our campus for 2-3 days, wherein we had organized lectures on Indian economy, society, and politics. So we can have similar programs in both Israel and India. And I think on this note, I've taken a lot of your time. Thank you for giving me the stage once again, Manpreet.
Thank you very much, Mr. Devendra. A very enlightening talk. We learned so much. The experiences we shared, which he shared with us, was fantastic. There is so much to learn and so little we know. So great session today, indeed. Very quickly, we now have a virtual session. Professor Reuven Yosef is joining us. He's basically collaborations on research between India and Israel, 35 years of research across the globe. So can you please connect? Wonderful. Welcome, Professor. Welcome to the session. You have the platform for a few minutes, please. Thank you. You're on mute, I think. We can't hear you.
You can't hear me.
Now we can. Yep, perfect. Now you're on mute again.
Okay, and
Better,
now?
better. Perfect, yes.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me for this talk. And I am essentially originally from India. I can talk to you in Hindi, I can speak to you in Marathi. माझा जन्म पुण्याला झालेला आहे ससून हॉस्पिटलला म्हणून तुमच्या संगती मी मराठी आणि हिंदीमध्ये पण बात करू शकतो. माझा शिक्षण शिवाजी मिलिटरी हायस्कूलला झालेला आहे शिवाजीनगर पुणे आणि तिथं माझा SSC करून NDA ला जाणार होतो पण मला डबल प्रमोशन मिळाला होता 2दा म्हणून मी सांगितलं मला की 2 वर्षात आता थांब. ते 1973 मध्ये होता म्हणून मी बोललो इथं योम किपूर वॉर स्टार्ट झाला. मी बोललो मी आता इस्रायलला जाऊन मी इस्रायली आर्मी मध्ये ऑफिसर होईन आणि तेच केलं. मी पुण्याच्या ज्यूश कम्युनिटीचा आहे. आमचा तुम्हाला पुन्हा माहिती असेल तर मग रास्तापेठला आमचा सिनेगॉग आहे सुखात श्लोमो आणि माझी आजी नानापेठला राहत होती आणि ससून हॉस्पिटलची चीफ नर्स होती. पण मला माझा लेक्चर मी इंग्लिश मध्ये देईन. So I apologize, I'll switch over to English for the other Israeli participants and also for my professional part of it. I continue, in 2000, I came back to India in order to bring my experience globally. After serving in the Indian Army for 19 years, I am a professor at Ben-Gurion University. I also have a chair in the Department of Environmental Studies at Savitribai Phule University in Pune. I work in global conservation and I'd like to, in the short time I have, try and explain to you what ecosystem services and how it applies to economics. First of all, I'd like to wish you all happy Baisakhi. It's the beginning of the month of Baisakhi in India, and hope I wish you all the best. I've worked in India since 2000. We've in Pune established a environmental NGO called ELA Foundation, and we have bought up land in the Pingori district, the Western Ghats. Rotary Pune helps us quite a bit, and I teach environmental studies to all those interested in from Pune itself and the surroundings. And here you can see me in the field teaching bird trapping, ringing, research to the people locally. This gentleman here is Professor Satish Pandey, and Satish Pandey is my counterpart in Pune and works in the conservation areas. I also donated my personal library of about 4,000 books to the project, and that is now housed at Pingori at the Heritage. I have worked on tigers in Nagpur and in that Bor Tiger Reserve. Here you can see my PhD student Reddy, who worked with me on tigers, Rucha, who worked with me on quail. Both did their PhD with me. Here I'm briefing the Maharashtra Forestry Department. So you can see I'm very much involved, and the subject that I work on is also ecosystem services. Now, ecosystem services is a subject that is not well known, but has extreme economic ramifications from the point of view of the environment. Ecosystem services are essentially services that we get free from the environment, and essentially we don't appreciate it.
Professor, sorry to interrupt you. Your presentation
whether you're in India or you're in Israel.
Professor, sorry to interrupt. Your presentation is not moving ahead. The slide is on the first one.
Oh, I see.
No worries.
You know what? Then I'll kick out and redo it. Can you see the slide now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, if you were stuck, can you see this previous slide?
We're good. You can keep going from here.
Okay, so this was the slide on Ella Foundation in Pune at Pingori with the library. This is my work that I did for 9 years in Nagpur. And what I'm talking about is the ecosystem services. Like when we go to the seashore, and last I visited India, I took my wife to Goa. And you see these crabs on the seashore, and you don't necessarily appreciate what they do for us. Recent studies I have conducted in my hometown of
Sorry to
Eilat.
interrupt again, Professor.
Yes,
Sorry to interrupt again, Professor. The slide is not moving. Do you want to put it on the presentation mode so everyone can see, please?
I am on presentation mode and you still can't see it.
No, the slide is not moving.
Should I stay as I am now, not in presentation mode?
We can only see the Red Sea ghost crab slide.
Okay, so I'll talk about that and then we'll see if I can move on.
Okay.
Have you seen the previous slides of the tigers and Ella Foundation?
No.
No. This one?
Now we can. Now we can see it changing. So
Okay.
you may want to keep driving it manually, please.
I think that's what I will do.
Yes, please.
Okay, so sorry about that. Technical problems still exist. So this is what I was talking about at Pingori, the land that we have bought up and turned into a sanctuary for wildlife with the help of Ella Foundation in Pune. This is my project at Bor Tiger Reserve in Nagpur with my two Indian students, Reddy and Rucha, who did their PhD with me, Reddy on the tigers and Rucha on quail. And this is with the Maharashtra Forest Department in Pune. Working with the Red Sea ghost crab, what I was explaining about the and ecosystem services. For example, when people come and sit on the seashore, on the sand, what they don't realize is that a lot of organic material is brought in by the wave action and deposited in the sand. Now, all of this organic debris essentially accumulates a lot of bacteria and viruses. So when you sit on all this, you can contract various skin diseases. The minimal is you will scratch. Maximum is you might get eczema, or you might get other types of diseases, which are essentially from coming into direct contact with the sand. So the individual that does us the benefit are these crabs. Because they go out and collect all, they forage on the organic debris, they're essentially removing all this rotting material, which is a health hazard to us. So from that point of view, this is an ecosystem service. Another ecosystem service that is very, very important to us are swifts and swallows. We take them to be eventually, I mean, some people, when they nest in their houses and they create the nest under the roof, they consider them to be pests because of some of the dirt that they create. But if you look at these birds, they are aerial hunters. They are removing from the skies all those avian insects that we call pests. And every swift that comes back to the nest brings a bolus of food. Now, each bolus has about 1,500 insects in it. Now, parent bringing its chicks 8 to 10 times a day, the bolus, can you imagine 2 individuals removing about 20,000 insects from the skies of our cities? Now, one of the biggest problems we are facing in Israel is urban rejuvenation or renovation. Now, the modern techniques of architecture are such that it's all glass fronted or metal, and there are no apertures for nesting swifts and swallows. And these populations have dropped by almost 40%. If this trend continues, the city of Tel Aviv, for example, where we have a big nest box program, the situation that will happen is the city or the state will have to invest large amounts of money to get rid of the same aerial pests, that these birds are doing a free service for us, such that it is very, very important to understand that many of these animals that live around us are giving us services which we take for granted and do not cost us money, but will do if we do not continue to preserve them. I'll specifically take on the case of what I'm working on right now is Jalana. Jalana is a city reserve in Jaipur, in the heart of the city. And the biggest predator in them are the leopards. Now, you in India, I know the RML colony, I know the Sanjeev Gandhi National Park and everything going on there with the leopards. You have to realize they are the best ecosystem services you can have. And I will tell you why. This is an aerial photograph of Jalana, and it is a wondrous area because it was once the hunting grounds of the Maharaja of Jaipur, who once served with my father in the Indian Army. And essentially, it has been completely closed in by the city of Jaipur, with only a little extension towards Sariska to the northeast. Here, this is where my Indian PhD students work. And we are doing a lot of, you can see this paper of the beautiful coexistence between the residents of Jaipur and the leopards of Jalana. We know each and every leopard. We know their name. We have named them all. We know exactly the demographics. We are working on a lot of different ecological aspects, but this is not the time where I can expand. But one of the ecosystem services that Jalana gives is temperature regulation. When it becomes very hot, and as you know, Jaipur is at the fringes of the Thar Desert, Jaipur can become very hot. Jalana moderates the temperatures of the city by almost 10 to 15%, such that the temperatures, sorry, not percent, degrees centigrade, such that from the point of view of how much contribution, and also take into account what we have not evaluated here yet, is most of the floods which are runoff of the urban areas, because all the cities, roads, everything, the water does not sink into the ground. And there are heavy torrential rains in the monsoons. They all concentrate into Jalana. So Jalana becomes a sink, a heat sink in the summer, a water sink during the monsoons, such that this area, a big central park, is extremely important for the city of Jaipur. But what I'm trying to explain to you is the leopards. The leopards of Jalana are doing a lot of different good to the residents of Jaipur. One of them is Carcass Disposal. As you're probably aware, India lost almost 90%, if not 95%, of all its vultures since the beginning of the century, owing to the use of a veterinary medicine called diclofenac, but I won't go into that. But the problem is that there is no one to dispose of all these carcasses, which are or die in the wild or are disposed by the villagers.
Excuse me,
the species
Professor.
that has taken the place of the vultures in the wild today are the leopards.
Excuse
They
me,
have
Professor.
become our vultures, such that they are getting rid of what could become an extremely bad situation of public health hazard. Another situation, and this is through a study where we study the scats of the leopards,
Excuse me,
published
Professor.
in the
Sorry to interrupt
prestigious
you.
journal called Growthx. And what we found that essentially the leopards were feeding mostly on stray dogs, of course on other animals too, but you can see that the wildlife are a very small percentage of the diet, while the natural diet is mostly dogs, cattle, goats, and cats. But dogs are very prominent. So we wondered what was the effect of this on the public health of Jaipur. And when looking at it all, we found that essentially, and by the way, this is a chapter now coming out in a book by Springer, where dogs are a big problem in India. We hadn't realized how much, and the newspapers are full of it. One more minute and I'll end, if that's the problem. Essentially what you can see here is, and please note that the y-axis is log, that these are all the big cities of metropolitan cities of India, red at Rajasthan, and see where Jaipur is in relation to, for example, Varanasi, Sitapur, Lucknow, Ajmer. We can see that this difference is thanks
Excuse me,
to
Professor.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you. We just gone a little over the time limit, so I'll request you to conclude as soon as possible. Thank you.
Okay. So essentially, since I know that you're meeting in Mumbai, I thought I would put up this Times of India newspaper where it says, save the big cats to save Mumbaikars. And essentially, yes, the public has to realize the economic value, because we are preventing rabies, we are preventing dog bites, we are preventing death. Okay, you can see the numbers here of how many thousands, lakhs of people in India suffer from rabies, dog bites, and even death from the poisoning of dog bites. So I thank you very much for your attention. I apologize for having gone over time, but please note that humans, the mass we have made on Earth, now far exceeds the biomass of the wildlife in nature. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor. Very enlightening session. We learned a lot from that. Thank you so much for that.
My pleasure.
So, ladies and gentlemen, without further delay, next up, we have the final session of the day. Mr. Amaya Pradhan from Growthx. I invite you to please take it up.
Hello. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Can I have some energy? Good afternoon. Okay. I represent Action Coach through my company Growthx in India. And because I'm an action coach, I'm going to get all of us into a bit of an action. Can we all rise, please? Please. Okay. Let's take you guys will take your right hand out. Okay. And try and push this wall to Churchgate Station. Churchgate Station. जा रहा है कि नहीं जा रहा है? जा रहा है. Very good. With your left hand, let's push this wall to the Arabian Sea. Have you done that? गया पानी में? अरे क्या बात है. Okay, let's stand, look back and see if you can see the Oberoi. Oh, behind you is Wankhede. Can we just shake on our left and on right, please? Fantastic. And now can we have our seats, please? Thank you so much, guys. The reason I do this is because we need to get into action every now and then. Without action, there is no result. That is what my company Action Coach is all about. Okay. Thank you, Your Excellency, for being here. Sagi, wonderful hearing from you. Devendra, I'm going to connect with you very soon. And I thank you so much for your presence here as well. And all the lovely ladies and gentlemen. I'm Amaya Pradhan. I'm an action coach. I'm a business coach. And I'm here to talk about business and coaching and how we can help people get better with that. Okay. So without much delay, let me start with my first slide. This is Brad Sugars, the founder of Action Coach. He's an Australian by birth, but nowadays he lives in US, Las Vegas. I don't know what he does there, but he does really good things. He says, because being in business should give you more life. And I don't know how many of you agree with this. We all started business with only one dream, the dream of freedom. I started my business as a coach to be free from lots of other things. My definition for freedom is having, kind of lifestyle that I wanted to have. Okay. So I want to thank you for your attendance because in business, your time is your most valuable asset, right? How you invest your time is one of the keys to business success. And for a lot of us, our spouses keep telling us business does not mean busyness. So Action Coach brings you a success formula which actually gets you the business that you want, but at the same time does not really keep you busy as much. So who are we? Rather, who am I? I've had about 20 plus years of corporate citizenship, delivered large scale transformation programs, particularly with multinational companies in financial services sectors for outsourcing in the outsourcing space. I'm a proud father and a husband. My wife is here today. Thank you so much for being here, Tanushree. And I'm also a cyclist. I support cycling as a sport. I'm also on the advisory panel of my city, Thane, where I live. I believe clean transportation is need of the hour. We heard from Professor and a lot of other people here. So you said about climate change. So I believe in promoting cycling as a mode for communication. And I'm your business coach for the next 15-20 minutes. Okay, so let's get started. Who are we? We are the world's #1 business coaching firm. We have more than 1,000 coaching offices in 82 countries worldwide. Privately owned and founded by Brad Sugars, an entrepreneur and author. He has written about 17, 18 books. Our vision, and this is what's very interesting, is to create world abundance through business re-education. All of us in the room who are into business know how to do business. But the fine line between a successful business and an ordinary business is about continuously learning and getting ourselves re-educated. So that's our vision. We get business owners trained, retrained on how to do better business, how to be successful. And we coach our 30,000 businesses each week across the globe. There is not a single business that we claim we haven't coached. Even if you're a pin maker to a software company, we have touched every business in the world. Okay, so where you will be in 5 years will depend upon the books you read, the people you associate with, and most importantly, the actions you take. A few minutes ago, we took some actions. Did you not find a bit of freshness coming into your body? You're all sitting for some time, right? If we take actions, there's something refreshing that happens. It gives us the result that we want, right? So that's what action coaching is all about. Okay. One of the things I'm going to request all of you to do is be a bit more participative. Because the only failure in life is the failure to participate. Imagine, let's go back to a time when we were learning to walk as kids. We were standing up, falling down, standing up, falling down, trying to take the next steps. Did we ever quit trying that? We didn't, right? No? So when you participate, you get the result. So my call out to all of you right now is to participate full throttle in this conversation, ask questions, and then that is when you'll learn the most from this conversation. If you just hear me, you will take back about 7% of what I've said. If you take wonderful notes, that will give you about 50% of what I've said. But if you ask me questions, if you participate, you will take more than 95% back from this conversation. And I'm not saying this is science. Okay, so these are some numbers that I've quoted from what science is. Okay. So what does Action Coach do? Action Coach helps you, build a perspective on your business where it actually helps you become the real entrepreneur. A lot of us say that once we start a business, we are an entrepreneur. But the way I look at these things, that's not true. There is a journey, there's a roadmap to entrepreneurship. And that roadmap really starts from the time when we are students, which is the level -1. Here we are not earning anything. Here we are spending money. We are getting education, we are going to university, we are going to schools, colleges, whatever. Once we have that education, we want to get into something called as an apprenticeship to learn the trick of the trade that we want to be into. And at that level, we go ahead and seek employment. We are an employee. Then some of us would go and become good salesmen, somebody in marketing, some in operations, IT, whatever it is. Then there comes a time, a point in our life when we decide that we want to do something of our own and we start a business. At that level, again, we are not entrepreneurs. We are just self-employed. Because at that level, we are doing things on our own. And a self-employed person is usually sitting on a seesaw. He has marketing to manage one day. He has got operations to manage the other day. Everything revolves around that one individual. Then as we grow, after a few months, few years, probably in some cases, we start having more people in our business. These people are taking instructions from us and are executing on our behalf. At that time, we are nothing but a manager. And a manager's favorite game is not that being on a seesaw, but being on a merry-go-round. You're just chasing people every now and then, round and round. एक दिन किया operations के साथ बात, दूसरे दिन किया sales के साथ बात, यही होता है. The look on some people's face says that all. Ma'am, you agree with me because you're laughing. Thank you. What happens next? Then, after a few years, is the first step towards entrepreneurship that we achieve. And that level is that of becoming a business owner. This is where you started getting so much money in your business that now you can afford to take a step back, look at your business holistically, and look at growing it to the next level. At a business ownership level, what we are really doing is we have created a team which takes care of our business and addresses issues even if we are not there day in, day out in the business. And once a business owner keeps doing this day in, day out for a few years, he goes to the next level of being an investor, because with the money that he has made, he's going to invest in in stocks, in real estate, in jewelry, Bitcoin, crypto, whatever it is nowadays, right? But the real game, or rather the end game, is to become an entrepreneur. And a true entrepreneur is that individual who makes money through other people's ideas. So entrepreneurship is all about putting money into something and then generating massive passive income, whether you're in office or not. And that's what Action Coach helps you to do. This is an entrepreneur's ladder that we help all our business owners to go ahead and deliver and look out and have in their own lives.
Amaya,
So,
sorry to interrupt. We'll have to take a break for 5 minutes because His Excellency and Sagi, they have to leave for other official commitments.
okay.
So we'll just take a 5-minute break and we'll resume. Sorry to interrupt. Manpreet?
Sorry, we are taking a, this is not. So due to some urgent commitments, we have our guests who have to leave a little early. So we are interrupting you. I'm very sorry, but we'll continue. Just give me a minute. We would like to felicitate both of you for being with us here today. So Sagi, I request Kevin to please, who's our Vice President, Western Zone, to please do the honors and present. We won't leave you that easily, you know.
Yes, please, Amaya. Sorry for that. See, everybody got some action in between.
So what's a business? A lot of us know business as a commercial profitable enterprise. We create a commercial profitable enterprise that works without you. And you heard that right. Because being in business should get you more time in life, right? That is what we've started to think about when we started doing action coaching. And how do we get there? Is there a formula for that? Have you ever heard of a formula that takes you out of business but still gets you the money that you want? Anyone? Okay, let me share the formula that helps you get a business which works without you and still gets you the money that you want. Okay. The first step towards that is mastering your business. Mastering your business is all about eliminating chaos, and there are 4 aspects of this. The first aspect is that of having a vision, or what I call it as destination mastery. How many of us out here know where do they want to be in next 10 years with their business? Thank you. There are about 30, 40, 50, 60 of us, less than 10%. Having a vision for your business is one of the most fundamental steps in business. Has anyone ever heard clarity is power? This is where clarity comes in. This is where a coach would help you get the kind of vision that you want for your business. I have a personal vision, but I also have a business vision. A lot of us have that. But just that we're not able to tie what we are doing day in, day out in our business with that vision. And hence, what happens is we start going off track. So this is also the step where we are also looking to bring delivery mastery in your business, which means we are asking you to look at how you interact with your customers. What do your customers say about you? Do you have a documented customer experience? Do you know how to handle a particular complaint if a customer comes talking to you or wants to talk to you? This is also the step where we help you build a dashboard for your paisa. How many of us out here read their profit and loss statements on a monthly basis? Wonderful, sir. That's the best thing to do. Actually, the right thing to do. There's so many of us here, and we only saw about 2 or 3 hands going up. What about the rest? What if I tell you that you will have a number at the end of the day, which will tell you how many sales you've got to make on a daily basis to get you to a break even? Does anyone have that number? That is what we help you do. Once we have this mastery, or once we have the numbers clear, or once we know that there's stability in your business, the next thing we help you do is build your niche. Niche is where we help you with your sales and marketing, where we help you with building a predictable cash flow. Now, why do we do niche after mastering? Because imagine if you don't have the clarity about what you want to do in business, what you're going to spend is not going to give you return. This is the place where we help you calculate your MROI, or marketing ROI. If you're marketing and don't know the return on that, do you think really the result that you're going to get is going to be aligned to the results you want in your business? The answer is an obvious no. And to get to niche, we need some bit of stability where you have people aligned to delivering what you want to deliver to your customer. Okay? So this is a place where we help you get predictable cash flows, and then we look at the efficiency side of the business, which is help you build the processes, the systems, the kind of KPIs, the goals, the SMART goals, to be precise, in your business, which help you get a lot of efficiencies. This is also the place where the business owner starts getting time back in his life. Because what we want to do is we want you to have a business that eventually works without you. And then obviously the next step is to build your structure for growth, which is your team. Now, this is not about getting the people on bus. It is about getting the right people in your business, because they are the ones who are going to take care of the business and eventually grow your business. Now, we all know the Mukesh Ambanis, the Tatas of the world don't go to office every day. Even their CEOs don't go to the office every day. They have their teams taking care of the business. For a very, very long time, a lot of people believe this is something which is possible only in the large corporates and enterprises. But no, with action coaching, the kind of structure, the kind of processes that we have, this can be achieved in every business, whether small or medium or large. It is possible. And then after that, we get to the step of synergy, which is where your business is running like a well-oiled machinery. Here you can go ahead and open new branches, go to other countries, go to Israel and do business in Israel, or open up or start franchising your business as well. Could be anything. And lastly, what it delivers for you as an individual are personal results. And those results are nothing but getting your massive passive income or even selling your business. Remember, Bill Gates made more money by selling a share of Microsoft. So results come when you build a structured business, when you build a stable business, a business which has its own niche. At the end of the day, I would like to quote Richard Branson. He says, if you can learn to run one business successfully, then there's no reason you can run any number of businesses at the same time. He does that literally. He has Virgin Atlantic, the airline. He is now in the space. He used to have a bank in the UK when I lived there long time ago. But this is my favorite quote, and this is one of the persons that I follow. Never wish your life were easier. Wish that you are better. Because competition is going to come in. Regulations are going to come in. Things like climate change are going to come and disrupt our business models. Pandemics are probably going to come in more and more frequently probably. But if you don't invest your time on yourself in learning and unlearning and relearning, you're going to get the same results. The definition of insanity, somebody told me very recently, was doing the same thing and expecting a different result. What we help you do is look at things differently to get different results. So again, where you'll be in 5 years will depend upon the books you read, the people you're associating with, and the actions you take. My humble request to all of you is to get up, take that action. And I'm sure with His Excellency's support, we are going to be in different countries, helping other people, the kind of communities that we are going to influence and build. So that's my time, guys. Thank you so much for being a patient audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Amaya. You did really well performing with a time-bound manner. So thank you so much for that. I would now like to invite Manpreet to say a few words, and then we'll close today's session.
If I say a few more words, people will kick me out. So let's not do that. First of all, I'd like to tell everybody that we have some snacks available, not lunch, of course, but please do join us and stay behind for that. So that's one. Second is, I would like to really highlight on one point that was not mentioned at the beginning. That's my mistake. That we are here today because we are celebrating 30 years of diplomatic relations between India and Israel.
Absolutely.
And this event is a series of events that we are going to be doing all over the country. This is the beginning. So please stay tuned with us. And we're going to be having more in Mumbai too very soon. It's an entire year that we are going to be doing. So please be with us, and we'll keep inviting you. We'll keep taking you to Israel. We'll be taking a delegation to Israel very soon at the later part of the year when things normalize a little bit more. So that being said, I would like to invite Madhu, who's our heart and soul for today's event. Also behind the scenes, Alok. Alok, can we have you here, please? So he's been the man behind the scenes who's been running around more than me. He's part of our committee. He's been looking after startups and innovation for our chamber. He's connecting with universities, connecting with people, and is a total people's person, so don't miss him out. We would like to felicitate the Honorable Consul General. Kobe, please, can we have you here? Kevin, can you please have you on the dais? Nilesh ji, can we please have you on the dais? Nilesh ji with our committee for film and media. So that's what we were talking about. Devendra ji, can we also have you here, please? Madhu, can you please do...
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Such a pleasure, such an honor.
Thank you very much. Working behind the scenes, yes.
I request Kevin to please felicitate Devendra ji. Where's our team from Paras Defense? Urvashi, are you around?
Thank you so much for everybody. Thank you. Please follow us, Twitter and all these media. First of all, I need more followers, but not more than that. I need your support. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I request everybody to please be seated. He's going to be here for a few more minutes. I'd like to felicitate Devendra ji and Nilesh ji. Kevin, thanks. Thank you so much. I request everybody back to Madhu for an official vote of thanks, and then we are open for the snack. Oh, Urvashi ji, can we please felicitate our partners, Paras Defense?
The second woman in defense that I know of, and I'm proud of.
Urvashi, please. Madhu, can you please do the honors?
My pleasure and my honor. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Back to you, Madhu.
All right. Look, with that, we'd like to conclude today's session. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. There are snacks at the back, but before that, I would like to do a quick vote of thanks to His Excellency Consul General of Israel, Mr. Kobi Shoshani, to come, give his time, stay till the end, listen to queries, exchange cards. Still, I think this is the kind of energy we all need and must have. Mr. Sagi, who had to leave early. Manpreet, our ever energetic president of ICIB. Mr. Vikash Mitter Sen, president of IBG, who had to leave as well. Mr. Devendra Pai from the Rambhau, Mhalgi, Prabodhini. It was fantastic to listen to you. Mr. Vijay, that was it. So thank you so much, everyone, for your time. All the members and the various associations that partnered us. We really appreciate your time and help. Thank you.